Welcome back to the table. I'm Natalie Taylor, and I am glad that you are back with me. And I hope that you have someone at the table with you to discuss everything that we're going to talk about today. So I have a question for you. Have you ever been invited to a party and you go alone? You walk into the room, picture the scene. There's hundreds of people. Specifically recently, this was my story. I had on a fancy dress, lots of people, tables, music were playing, and I walked in panicking. Do you remember the scene like when your armpits sweat? Anyway, so you walk into the room and I'm a nervous wreck. Why? Because I don't want to be alone. Is there going to be someone to talk to? Is someone going to talk to me? Everyone is already kind of like partnered up in their groups of people because they got there before I did, and what's going to happen? And so I walk in, I feel very alone, and I have this sense of like isolation and that everyone has their back to me. So what did I do? I beelined it to a table, sat down, got my phone out, put my stuff down, and you just try to make an awkward situation not quite so awkward, right? I'm quite for sure you've been here at some point in time. Now, the end of the story goes, I warmed up to the atmosphere. It all turned out fine, but I have been in those situations before where I have felt alone all night long. Or what if you get invited over to someone's house and you don't really know them and they come and ask you to sit at their table and it's like super awkward conversation? But today's topic is, ready? Rejection. Have you ever felt rejected before? In that moment, that night when I walked into that big party with all of those hundreds and thousands of people there, what I was really wrestling with was a fear of rejection. Are they going to like me? Are they going to love me? Are they going to like my outfit? Are they going to talk to me? Are they going to shun me? What are they going to do? And so I know this is like a battle that we've all dealt with at some point in time, but recently I was in another situation and I started feeling this sense and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. What I was feeling was alone. What I was feeling was this like something on the inside of me was emotional. I kept thinking all of these negative thoughts. Well, what does this person think about me? And what are they saying about me? And I want to get close to them, but I don't think they want to get close to me. And if we're thinking about the table, it was kind of like, do I invite them to my table? I'm afraid they're going to say no. And I really want them to come to my table. But if they come to my table, are we going to have an awkward conversation? And maybe there's confrontation involved, or maybe they don't like me. And all of the questions were just swirling around my mind. And I'll never forget, I was walking in the grocery store recently and was pushing my buggy, putting my groceries in, and I'm having this conversation with God. Like, what is it that I'm feeling? What is this feeling that it's causing me anguish at night, that it's causing me really not to sleep well? To be honest, I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking about my current situation. Before I went to that party, I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking about what I was going to do when I walked in the room, thinking about the possibility of what someone would say to me or do to me, wrestling with insecurity and honestly wanting to run away. Because when I get this feeling inside that comes up inside of me, the first thing that I want to do is hightail it out of there. I want to run away as far as I can. I want to say no to every party invite or every hard conversation, but I don't. I stay. But my go-to is I want to run. And I'm just wondering what your go-to is. When you start feeling these feelings on the inside of like, I don't want to have the conversation, or I don't want to have confrontation, or I'm having this sense that maybe my friend now isn't my friend anymore, or I got invited to a dinner party and what do I do? What's your go-to? So I'm pushing my cart in the grocery store and I'm having these conversations. I'm like, God, I want to sleep better at night again. I don't want to feel this way. What am I dealing with? And it was like out of nowhere, in the deli, God comes down and says, You're dealing with rejection. And I was like, what? Such a simple word. And when we say rejection, we're like, yeah, we know what that means. But it was like he gave me the words in that moment for what I had been wrestling with for weeks. It's like rejection. Okay. I believe you. I trust you. And it's settled. Have you ever experienced when like God comes out of nowhere in the deli department and says, you're experiencing rejection, and something settles deep and there's some peace, and all you know is that there's peace for the first time in weeks. So I went home, and what did I do? I Googled rejection. When in doubt, you just Google. So I Googled rejection, and did you know that rejection is actually the dismissal or the refusal of giving someone or demonstrating likeness, love, kindness? And I was like, oh my gosh, something so simple, yet so profound. When I was at that party and got invited to this big party with all of these people, my greatest fear is that someone would dismiss me and not show me kindness. Whenever I'm dealing in relationships or having family drama, what I'm dealing with is when my family turns their back on me and says, I refuse to show you or give you my love because I'm actually hurting. It was like light bulbs. It's like so simple, but yet so profound. And what I've been thinking about since then is we are hardwired for love, right? We are hardwired and created to receive love, to contain love, and to give love away. So at the root of everything, the makeup of who you are, if you can picture the inside of yourself and it's just like this swirling DNA, everything is held together by love. When someone refuses or dismisses you and they remove the action of love, you feel rejected. And that hits to your core. And I was thinking about a story in the Bible, and this helped me so much, so I hope it helps you. So there's a story. Jesus is talking to Peter. Remember Peter? He was the guy that was always willing to go to war for someone, cut people's ears off, be the strongest, that guy. So him and Jesus were having a conversation. And I think this is so interesting. Jesus turns to Peter and says, Peter, you're going to reject me. Peter's like, kidding me? I'll go to war for you. Never would I reject you. He says, no, actually, you are going to reject me. Then, right after Jesus says that, he turns to Peter and says, along with some other people, I want you to come away with me. I want you to come somewhere with me, because Jesus was about to process some really hard stuff that was coming his way. And so he invited a few people with him. Peter said, right after Jesus said, hey, you're going to reject me. You want to come with me? Peter's like, of course, because I'm in it with you. So then Peter, Jesus, and a few others go away. And then Jesus begins to be vulnerable and tell Peter exactly how he's feeling, how this anguish and heaviness was coming over him. And he said, you know what? I'm so distraught. I need you to stay here. And I'm actually going to go a little bit further, and I'm going to spend time with God. This is what has struck me. When I was in the middle of my wrestling, and maybe you're wrestling with family, maybe you're wrestling with a spouse, maybe you're wrestling with a best friend, and you're like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this feeling? Now we have a name for it, rejection. How do I engage in relationship with them? How do I move forward? Let's take a snapshot from Jesus. First of all, Jesus acknowledged the rejection. He said, Peter, you're going to reject me. Jesus didn't say, you're going to reject me and now I don't love you. You're going to reject me, so now I'm going to reject you. No, Jesus said, you're going to reject me. There was acknowledgement there. Then he did something really powerful. Then he invited Peter to go on a journey with him. There is so much power in an invitation. Then, after the invitation happened, Peter said yes. That's important. Sometimes we want to invite, we want to drag. If we are feeling a sense of rejection, maybe we're like, no, you're coming with me. No, we want to be codependent. We want to vomit our stuff on people. But no, Jesus acknowledged it. He invited. Peter said yes. Then when they went away, Jesus was vulnerable with him. Then Jesus went a little further and spent time with his Father. So you've acknowledged the rejection. Make an invitation. Maybe the invitation is a phone call. If you're feeling rejected on any front, or maybe someone has rejected you, no feelings attached to it. It's legitimate. They have blocked you in their phone. They have turned their back on you. They have removed their love from you. An invitation that's appropriate for your situation, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's an email. Maybe it's a letter. But there's an invitation for reconciliation. And then you wait. Because see, everyone is powerful and everyone has a choice to make. And so for you to think that you have to make someone else's choice and for you to be powerful for them, that's a broken system. So let them be powerful in their choice. So once they reciprocate and say yes, now you've got an opportunity to have an open and honest conversation. Now you are creating the appropriate pathway for reconciliation. And then finally, what I think is so beautiful is that once Peter went away with Jesus, and once Jesus is talking to Peter and his friends, and Jesus is being vulnerable, then he says, stay here, support me, be with me, pray for me. And Jesus said, I'm going to go a little further away and I'm going to pray. Do you see in that moment, Jesus is not codependent. I think too often we become codependent with people that are in our lives. And I think sometimes we get rejection and codependency intermingled together. We need to separate them. Jesus acknowledged the rejection. He made the invitation. Once Peter said yes, then he began an honest, vulnerable conversation, and then he went away to be with his Father. So I want to leave you with this. This is my call to action for you. Rejection, feeling rejection, or maybe you are the one that is rejecting someone, is something that hits the very core of your being, and it can hurt the worst. It can be the thing that can tear you apart from the inside out. And so it's okay to stop and acknowledge, have I been rejected, or am I the one that's actually rejecting? So after this episode is over and you're alone in your quiet place, I want you to ask the Lord this question: am I rejected, or have I been the one to reject others? And I want you to pause, and I want you to let him speak to you about that. Because listen, let's just all be real. We've all either experienced rejection or we've been the one rejecting, okay? So to sit here and think, oh, I've never been rejected, or I've never rejected anyone, well, that's just not true. So it's okay to say, actually, I've been hurt. So the second thing that I want you to do is I want you to take the journey with Jesus. I want you to make an internal choice that says, you know what, I'm going to allow Jesus into my life, and I'm going to allow him to heal me in these broken places. And even if it's you or the one that was rejecting someone else, I bet you're rejecting because you're actually hurting. So allow Jesus to heal you from the inside out, and then take the appropriate steps to reconcile relationships if appropriate. So remember, we're talking about the table. We're talking about this invitation. We're talking about having people come into your life and sit at your table with you. So maybe the question is there someone in my life that I have rejected, or that they have rejected me, that I really would love them back at my table? If that's the case, I encourage you, remember what Jesus did. Remember the model that he showed us. He acknowledged it. He made an invitation. He waited for the acceptance of the invitation. He was vulnerable. And then he went away to be with his Father. You do those things, and I think your relationship is going to turn around. So I hope this episode has been helpful. I hope that you find in your personal relationships and in your heart, ultimately at the end of the day, that you experience love. And remember, you're loved by the Father, first and foremost, and then you're going to give love away to those around you. So leave a comment, like, subscribe, share with a friend, invite someone back the next time, and let's sit at the table together.